We are disgusted with this wretched food. Those are the words of the Israelites in the first reading from today's Mass. Believe it or not, in reference to the holy manna, the bread from heaven with which God fed them in the wilderness. Remember back that they had no food and they grumbled against God and Moses saying, "Well, we're in the desert, we have no food to eat." Well, just to prove that God did, in fact, have a plan and he was going to take care of them, remember, he rained down bread from heaven. And when they saw it, they were so amazed that they exclaimed in Hebrew, manna, means, what is it? Well, of course, it was something new, something they hadn't seen before. They had envisioned that God would do this, but he did. He miraculously fed them with bread from heaven. Remember, he gave them water from the rock too, and quail to feed them in the camp so that all their needs would be taken care of. But after wandering for a while in the wilderness and having this miracle happen every day of the manna, they get to the point in our first reading today where they actually exclaim, "We are disgusted with this wretched food." Can you imagine? Well, actually, I can, because it's a pretty human kind of thing that familiarity breeds contempt sometimes. We get used to the way that God brings miracles every day, and we just come to expect it. And heaven forbid, we too can actually get to the point where we would become disgusted with this wretched food. And if you doubt that, just think about the Eucharist, bread from heaven. In fact, the manna, as amazing as that was merely a prefiguring, a sign that would point forward to the Eucharist one day. Literally, bread from heaven, bread that becomes God Himself. We get to partake of that every Sunday, at least, if not every day. And what's our response after doing it over and over and over? Well, I don't get anything out of this mass anymore. This is boring. Why do I have to go to mass? I've got better things to do. Huh. We are disgusted with this wretched food. It seems we say a lot to God these days. What do we really think of the miracle that is the Eucharist? I know, especially for people who even love the Eucharist and come every day, we too are in danger that the Eucharist can become just another part of our morning routine. I get up, I make my bed, take a shower, brush my teeth, receive the living one true God in the Holy Eucharist, get in my car, go to work, make coffee. Is the Eucharist just something that kind of gets slammed in the middle of all that and it's just become ordinary? We talk a lot in our diocese right now here in Kansas City about a need for rekindling Eucharistic amazement. We should be amazed at the Eucharist. But nah, what is this? People who are not Catholic have often remarked, if I believed what you Catholics believed about the Eucharist, I would fall on my face on the ground in front of it every day. This is Jesus, you supposedly believe. Well, we certainly don't act like it a lot of time, and I think that means that we need to rekindle some of that. Well, how do we do that? Well, when the Israelites had their little disgruntled complaint against God, God allowed them to suffer. He sent fiery serpents to bite them, to wake them up and say, "Hey, you're on the wrong path here." Well, you can look around and say perhaps God is doing that in many ways in our culture. Regardless of what we think the cause of our calamities is, the solution in the scriptures to the serpents was that Moses was asked to make a bronze serpent, put it on a pole, and everyone had to look at it. And that brought healing. You ever think how counterintuitive that is? Like the very thing that's causing the problem, the serpents, we're going to put that on a pole and everyone's going to look at it, and that brings healing. Well, I think that's actually a really good example of what the solution might be for us. We need to look at the problem, not hide it, not pretend it. Oh well, people are bored with mass. People don't like it. Well, how can we dress mass up more? Let's bring in a drum set and a rock band. Let's serve coffee at mass. Make comfy seats. Like there are all kinds of things we could do to mask the problem. The problem isn't that mass is boring. The problem is that our hearts have become complacent. Moses said, "You got to look at the problem." You know what? Everyone who admitted there was a problem and looked at the serpent, they were healed. There's a saying in liturgy, lex orandi, lex credendi. The law of praying is the law of believing. So if we're not believing the correct thing about the Eucharist, 70% of people don't believe it's really Jesus, well, we better look at how we're praying and how many times maybe we come to Mass saying in our hearts, Lord, we are disgusted with this wretched food. It's boring. It's old. Today, we celebrate the exaltation of the cross. We remember that the origin of the Eucharist, the origin of our entire faith, is that Jesus, not a fake bronze serpent, but God Himself, was lifted up on the cross. Let us not look at that and say that we are disgusted. Perhaps it has become ordinary and commonplace. Let's look honestly at that. Look at the cross and then look honestly at ourselves. Where do we, rather than the Mass, need to change? God continues to give us His miraculous gifts. What will our response be? God bless you.